Hi, my name is ColdBeer, and let's start with Cronos, the New Dawn. This is a third-person survival horror game, where you play as an agent sent to the ruins of a post-apocalyptic future. Your job is to search for specific people in the past and extract them before they die horribly during a mysterious catastrophe. The world itself is a strange mix of brutalist architecture, decaying technology, and horrifying creatures known as orphans. And trust me, these are not the kind of orphans Disney movies prepare you for. These things are aggressive, grotesque, and ready to put you into their meaty potato salad. Meaty because of you know. Combat focuses on managing limited resources and surviving encounters rather than feeling like an unstoppable action hero. That will raise your anxiety levels, so make sure you are lacking the feeling. Basically, if you enjoy games like Dead Space, you may like this one as well. Keeper. Here you will play as a lighthouse. Yes, a lighthouse. One day you woke up, grew legs, and decided to go on an adventure accompanied by a bird. You will explore a strange post-human world, solve puzzles, and use your powerful beam of light to interact with the environment. Here you won't find any combat, no endless inventory management, and no NPCs asking you to collect 8 asses of dire wolf for 50 copper coins. It is just you, your bird friend, and a world that gets progressively weirder the further you go. The game tells its story without words, and somehow manages to be more understandable than some modern games with 400 pages of dialogue. Also, the visuals are really beautiful. Not as beautiful as your mother-in-law, but hey, nobody's perfect, right? Basically, if you like games where you travel through a strange world, this one is definitely worth your attention. And if you always dreamed of becoming a lighthouse, well, today's your lucky day. Nioh 2, the Complete Edition. Here you can create your own original protagonist and embark on an adventure that will take you through devastated lands across Japan during the Sengoku period. Much like the previous title, which gained a lot of praise from fans and critics alike, Nioh 2 contains an original story and a lot of action. This edition includes all the content from Nioh 2 along with all 3 DLC expansions: The Tengu's Disciple, Darkness in the Capital, and The First Samurai. You can also play the game at 120 frames per second if your monitor is a beast. Also, it supports 4K, ultra-wide screens, and so on. People on Steam are talking that this game is a masterpiece, well-balanced title with great replayability value, but definitely not for those who suck at Souls-like games. But if you suck at Souls-like games, I have wonderful advice for you. Stop sucking, get good. See how easy it is? The Witness. I hate this game. The Witness is for smart people with great memory, and I'm none of these people. And although I like puzzles and all that, but by playing Witness I realized that I'm way dumber than I imagined. So if you like to test your memory and IQ, this is a great title for you. Just keep in mind that the results can be a bit disappointing. The game itself is set on a beautiful open-world island where you have to crack all the riddles to unveil a terrible secret. If you are not some puzzle maniac, you will never get there. But at least the game will show you your limits. Shadow Tactics: Blades of the Shogun. This is a hardcore tactical stealth game set in medieval Japan around the Edo period. You will take control of a team of deadly specialists and sneak into the shadows between dozens of enemies. Choose your approach when infiltrating mighty castles, snowy mountain monasteries, and hidden forest camps. Set traps, poison your opponents, or completely avoid enemy contact. Game has an overwhelmingly positive review score, meaning that for this price it is a masterpiece. Although keep in mind that the game sometimes may prove to be insanely difficult and some missions are beyond hard to crack. So be sure that you have not forgotten how to use that tiny, not very important organ between your ears, because you will need it more than ever. People on Steam are talking that if you like classic Commandos or Desperados 3 for example, this game for sure is your spoon of potato salad. Iron Marines. Well, it's hard to introduce this game somehow differently than as a flat 2D StarCraft, and you know what? It's great! The art style may look very familiar to some of you because the game is made by the same developers of Kingdom Rush, as I always say, one of the best tower defense games ever made. So here you'll recruit and train the greatest heroes in the galaxy, lead them into dangerous missions against near impossible odds and unleash their mighty powers and abilities. In short, you will get 21 campaign missions across 3 different worlds and each mission will require new tactics and actions to achieve victory. You will have to defeat unique bosses and control 14 different heroes. Game allows you to choose from several difficulty modes, meaning that it can be enjoyed either by noobs or by veterans of the genre. Game is quite funny, filled with Easter eggs and more than 70 achievements for you to unlock. People on Steam are saying that if you want to play something like StarCraft but don't want to fry your brain while doing that, Iron Marines is the next best thing. Game has a very positive review score, so this may very well be what you were looking for after all. REVEIL. This is a narrative first-person psycho thriller focusing on puzzles and exploration. So basically this is a very nicely done walking simulator, you know, with horror vibes, so not as boring as you may expect. The story begins with you waking up. You are disoriented, your head hurts. Well, honestly, a lot of us have the same problem the main protagonist has. It's called alcoholism. But surprisingly this time it's not it. You are trapped into a surreal, mysterious place where everything looks familiar but you don't know why. As things get crazier and more bizarre, the lines between reality, memory and imagination become more and more blurred. So your only way out is to solve everything. Be sure you have an IQ a bit higher than room temperature. Game has strong, very positive review score, so if you like games like that, this may be a wonderful hidden spoon of potato salad for you. CryoFall. This is a sci-fi colony simulation survival game set on a forgotten planet in a distant future. You will join the world together with other survivors to rebuild your civilization from scratch. Start with primitive technology and simple tools, and use them to progress towards modern industrial might and even beyond, eventually reaching space-age technology only seen in science fiction. So it's a science fiction game where you seek to achieve some science fiction. CryoFall can be played either as a relaxed player versus environment experience with no competition or as a brutal and unforgiving PvP. Make your choice and join one of the many available servers with different game modes, or host your own and invite your friends to join you. However, it's important to keep in mind that CryoFall is not for the faint of heart. The unforgiving environment can be brutal, and you might find yourself in situations where even a tardigrade would be jealous of your survival skills. So to spice up your curiosity, I will tell you that here you can kill with your thoughts. That should really grab your attention. If it grabs somewhere else, call the police. Inkulinati is an ink-based strategy game straight from medieval manuscripts, where a thought can be deadlier than a sword. You will take your turn in Inkulinati duels filled with unexpected tactical depth and humor.
Yeah, fart humor, very funny, haha.
Shut up, that is always funny. You'll embark on an ever-changing journey, build your own bestiary, defeat medieval superstars and collect perks to unleash special powers. And now it's the time when you must subscribe. It's the law, I have nothing to do with that. The penalty of not subscribing to my channel is a ban from Boobhala after you die. It's terrible, I know, so I guess you have to subscribe. Resident Evil 4. 6 years have passed since the biological disaster in Raccoon City. You are one of the survivors of the incident, and you have been sent to rescue the president's kidnapped daughter. You track her to a secluded European village where there is something terribly wrong with the locals. They all put pineapple into potato salad. I'm kidding, of course, nothing that horrifying. Those people are just crazy. You know, they want to kill you, mutilate your body and then do something else with it. What a nice place to be, you know? So you will be living this nightmare and you will do your best trying to survive. People are saying that after playing Resident Evil 2 Remake, it was hard to hope that anything can be that level of awesomeness, but Resident Evil 4 does miracles. Players are saying that this remake is just excellent, and you know, I can only agree, this game is awesome. Monster Hunter Rise. This is originally a Nintendo Switch game released back in 2021. Now we have this action-soaked game on Steam as well, and this version is obviously upgraded to meet our expectations. You will rise to the challenge and become a hunter, explore brand new maps and use a variety of weapons to take down fearsome monsters. That's what developers say, but I would change the word fearsome to airy-fairy, because those monsters are anything but fearsome. Although they are beautiful, I can't deny that. Each monster you hunt will provide materials that allow you to create new weapons and ammo. You can also upgrade your existing gear so you can go back on the field and hunt even more airier and fairier monsters and earn even better rewards. Of course, all of that is presented in 4K resolution with ultra-wide monitor support and unlocked frame rate. The Medium. concept is simple. Here you exist in the physical world and in the spirit plane, and you have to interact in both of those. You will have to use your psychic abilities to solve puzzles spanning both worlds, uncover deeply disturbing secrets, and survive encounters with a Maw, a monster born from an unspeakable tragedy. Sounds grim and a bit scary. Also, the whole concept reminds me of a Silent Hill, although in there you weren't in control of world switching. In a matter of fact, no sane person would ever go to that other world of Silent Hill by choice, so the medium's concept is more like Shadow's Awakening, but in different genre. The world of the game has been invented and designed under the inspiration of Zdzislaw Beksinski's paintings, as almost every horror game these days. So Beksinski was a polished dystopian surrealist with a sad life story. He obviously wasn't a fan of airy-fairy unicorn rainbows, but rather he saw a grim mirror of our reality and reflected his imagination on his disturbing but very cool paintings. Sons of the Forest. So here, alongside the sandbox spot where you cut the trees, build cute houses, lay traps and free roam this beautiful world, there is this cannibal part of the game. You have to defend yourself against a clan of genetic mutant enemies that have beliefs, families, morals, and appear almost human, except that they want to kill and eat you. Well, come on, let's admit, you are looking like a snack, you gorgeous. So here you are sent to find a missing billionaire on a remote island, and you find yourself, as I mentioned before, in a cannibal-infested hellscape. Craft, build, and struggle to survive, alone or with friends. Also, as you probably know, you can have a mutant waifu here, with more legs and more hands than you are used to, so I guess with more than one butt crack as well, and interesting. Anyway, the game has a very positive review score left by hundreds of thousands of people, and the price is really nice. I imagine that they could just make the base price of it 60 euros and ride the wave of popularity, but the price of the game is just half of that, and with a discount, even less. The Dark Pictures Anthology, House of Ashes. Here, at the close of the Iraq War, special forces hunting for weapons of mass destruction unearth something far deadlier, a buried Sumerian temple containing a nest of creepy creatures. To survive the night below, they must forge a brotherhood with their enemies from the world above, and only your decisions will influence how the story will unfold. Basically, I can guarantee that nothing good will ever happen with you behind the wheel. Everyone will die horribly, and you are the one to blame. But hey, that's the beauty of this game, you can replay it and make different, probably way worse decisions next time. Resident Evil Village. The story is set a few years after the events in Resident Evil 7. The all-new storyline begins when a man and his wife start living peacefully in a new location, free from their past nightmares and horrors. And just as they are building their new life together, then, you know, stuff happens. Otherwise, it would be a love story, not a fantasy story with horror elements. Village is one of the coolest games ever, with an atmosphere creepier than your neighbor-in-law.
Wait, what? That exists?
I don't know, I hope not. Also, this game is not a pure horror game as you can imagine. It's really not that scary, it's just creepy. And overwhelmingly positive reviews are here for a reason. This game is fantastic. Also, you can play the free demo version on Steam. Siege Survival, Gloria Victis. Your country is invaded and your city is under a brutal siege. A small group of civilians are trapped in the only remaining stronghold. They are the last source of hope for the defending troops hanging on for their life. You might not be fighting the invaders yourself, but the fate of the city lies in your hands. You know, you are the manager. Without you, everything will succumb to chaos. You need better weapons, a roof over your head, hot food, and all the other things for, you know, existing. And the only way you'll get these is if you and your team craft them, but resources are limited and you'll need to sustain both soldiers and civilians. Maintaining this balance is not the job for the faint-hearted, believe you me. So you will have to find ways to preserve your potato salad, develop your infrastructure and use your supplies more efficiently. Main story will only take around 8 hours to beat, but if you want to unlock all the achievements, it will take you around 10 times more. People are saying that the game reminds them of the famous This War of Mine, and that is never a bad thing. Blair Witch. I never played the game myself because I expected it to be very scary, so I watched the entire playthrough on YouTube. I really love watching horror games being played by people with way bigger balls than I have. So what can I say? Blair Witch is not a very scary game. It is dark and psychologically challenging, but the level of horror isn't very high. I could probably play it without much struggle. The game itself is quite linear, so don't expect much action. All you'll do here is hold the W key. Sometimes relaxed and sometimes you will press way harder, depending on the situation of course. So basically it is a walking simulator with menacing and beautiful visuals. Anyway, the story starts in 1996. A young boy disappears in the forest, and you, a former police officer with a troubled past, join the search. What starts as an ordinary investigation soon turns into an endless nightmare as you confront your fears and the Blair Witch herself, a mysterious force that haunts the woods. Creepy but very fun. Songs of Conquest. This game is as close to Heroes of Might and Magic 3 as it can get, but it doesn't have town screens. Instead of that, you will build your town like in casual strategy games, on the ground on the world tier. That kinda kills the mood, but everything else is by the book. It is a truly honest clone made in pixel art style, although even if you like the art style, like I do, sometimes you want to zoom in so you could look at the creatures and their features, but then you realize that you just zoomed in on a bunch of colored squares, and you can't even tell where the head or a butt is anymore, so no zooming here. Adore the visuals from afar. And you have to admit, what a beautiful game this is. I seriously want to eat it, or at least put it as an ingredient into my potato salad. Music is also amazing, like a honey to our ears, and the campaign is wonderfully written. You really care about your heroes and the fate of this land. And when you finish everything, you can enjoy map editor and create more of this game for yourself, or just download tons of content created by way more talented people than you are. No offense, I do the same. Resident Evil 2. This is a complete remake of a classic game. Overwhelmingly positive review score softly hints that it was a complete success as well. Resident Evil 2 offers a fresh take on a classic survival horror saga with realistic visuals, immersive audio and a new over-the-shoulder camera. You'll also get modernized controls on top of gameplay modes from the original game. I can still remember when I played the original game when I was 14 years old, and somehow I had my mental balls big enough to play it every evening after school. Well, on those rare occasions when I actually went to school. I'm a YouTuber not because I was very good at studying, you know, but I was good at games. That's why you should avoid me if you need your appendix surgically removed, but if you want your boredom removed, I'm your guy, that's for sure. Dragon Ball FighterZ. So in this Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter inspired game you can finally fulfill your ultimate fantasy and win against Goku as Mr. Satan. Well, at least try, you know. I can remember how I was skipping school to not miss the episodes. I don't think I ever attended the last lesson at school for 2 years because of that. And the last lesson was always French or math. That's why je ne parle pas français and I can't count past 10. Except if I suspect my boss is doing shenanigans with my salary, then I can count way better than my math teacher ever did. But I don't have a boss because, just as I said, I skipped school and nobody wanted to hire me. So I had to become a YouTuber and be my own boss. But hey, I'm broadcasting a wrong lesson here. Don't skip school. School is important and cool. You can work hard in school and then work hard and have a boss. You know, like in Dragon Ball Z, many bosses will become a part of your life, except you can't beat them even if you want.
Still, a wrong message, ColdBeer. A wrong message.
Shit. Anyway, as I've said many times, do not take life advice from me. Only gaming advice. If you are a fan of Dragon Ball Z, nothing will bring you closer to beloved anime than games like these. Monster Hunter World. You'll take on the role of a hunter and slay ferocious monsters in a living ecosystem, where you can use the landscape and its diverse inhabitants to get the upper hand. You can hunt alone or in co-op with up to 3 other players, and use materials collected from fallen foes to craft new gear. There are 14 different weapons at your disposal, each with its own unique characteristics and styles of attack. Many hunters acquire proficiency in multiple types, while others prefer to attain mastery of one. Monster Hunter World has 87% of positive reviews on Steam, left by more than 200,000 players. Incredible achievement. Nioh Complete Edition. This game, as you probably already know, is a third-person Souls-like action RPG. You play as a lone traveler in the age of samurai who lands on the shores of Japan. You must fight your way through the vicious warriors and supernatural creatures that infest the land in order to reach your destination. The complete edition contains the full game and 3 expansions with additional story chapters. People are jokingly saying that in this game you are Vibu Geralt, and as with the Witcher game, you just have to play Nioh with a gamepad.
Or you will suffer even more.
Yeah, the game is Souls-like, remember? By the way, in 2021, Nioh Complete Edition was free on Epic, so you might have it already if you were used to taking free goodies from there. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. This is a massive, challenging action RPG that drops you into a vast open world full of interesting characters and creatures. The game is made by Capcom, a Japanese company, but the whole setting of Dragon's Dogma is European. So you may think maybe because of that this game features some ridiculous moments, but Capcom was really serious about the job. They went all around Europe to actually get a lot of information, especially for the backgrounds and environments in the Dragon's Dogma. They looked at architecture and buildings and things of that nature, and also just natural environments as well. Also took many pictures and tried to recreate those as closely as possible. Well, a bunch of Japanese people in Europe taking pictures? Who could have thought? Anyway, developers actually did a lot of research in Europe that helped to recreate stuff in-game, and that level of dedication is truly admirable. Dragon's Dogma has more strategy and more dynamic fights than usual action RPG games. You know, you can climb monsters here, and that is super cool. Also, it's a tougher game in general, but if you like to explore the open world and love fantasy games, you can't ignore it. Gamers are talking that this is an underrated gem and is a must-play for every open-world RPG fan. House of the Dying Sun. This is a tactical space shooter that puts you in the cockpit of the Empire's most deadly interceptor and in command of the Harbinger fleet. You will hunt down the enemies of your dying empire and upgrade your warships with new weapons and abilities earned during your campaign of terror. Well, it seems that you are a bad guy here. Anyway, gamers are praising amazing sound design, exciting combat and great visuals. The only bad thing is that the game is super short. Still, longer than your ding-dong. Jokes aside, for you to beat it, it will take less than 4 hours. Although by reading comments on Steam I saw guys who have from 10 to 40 hours of gameplay on record, meaning that the game, at least for some of us, has great replayability. Kingdom Rush Tower Defense. This is one of the best rated games on Steam overall. The review score revolves around 97%, and that is more than impressive for a simple tower defense game. Well, to call it simple is overstating. It is made so well you will constantly feel rewarded by the decisions you make. So in other words, this is a serotonin factory for your brain. A few years ago I was running an electric scooter rental business in Palanga, one of the resort cities of Lithuania, and this game helped me kill time big time. You know, when you have to sit all day in one place hoping that someone will rent your scooter, that may sound boring, and it was. Well, money was good, but still the boredom was overwhelming. But when I installed this game on my laptop, I was excited to go to work because I could play it all day, and that was awesome. This game, and honestly the whole franchise of Kingdom Rush, is amazing and undoubtedly the best tower defense game I have ever tried in my life. I can totally recommend it for you without any doubts. Alien Isolation. Here you are all alone in a giant space station and a xenomorph is hunting you. You have no guns, you are the prey, but despite the fact that you are a woman, your balls are way bigger than some men have, definitely bigger than mine. So you are being hunted by a creature of nightmares, smart, stealthy and built to kill. Sometimes it can take an hour without an encounter, sometimes you can feel it creeping upon you in the vents, sometimes you can hear it, and sometimes you just die because a xenomorph is not some usual monster. It's terrifying. Really terrifying. The feeling when you see him launching at you from a distance will put your heart into your heels. It looks and moves in a way which somehow invokes the primal fear in your brain. To play this game you will have to have huge and hairy mental balls, because with time you may get used to the alien, you may get used to hiding and even to jump scares, but when the game guides you to the alien nest, and it's the only way to go, you will only wish that you had not 2 balls, but at least 4, or more likely 7. Yeah, 7 is good number. Jupiter Hell. Here time flows only when you act, just like in the famous Superhot, although Jupiter Hell is a turn-based roguelike game where you get to kick demon butt on a space station. The retro graphics and creepy audio design create an atmosphere that's scarier than your mother-in-law when she's missing her favorite spoon for potato salad. And the gameplay is as tough as the steak you make. Yeah, the roguelike genre is here for a reason. You will die, and die again until you do not die, and then repeat. But keep in mind that with a ton of weapons and abilities to choose from, you can mix and match until you find the perfect combo for yourself. And sure, the game can be unforgiving, but that's what makes it fun. Who needs a therapist when you can scream at your monitor and blame the game for all the mistakes you made in your life that literally lead you to playing this game? Although the game itself is very nice, more than 90% of reviews on Steam are positive. No rest for the wicked. The game is still in early access, so it is kinda rough on the edges, but it is made by developers of Ori and the Blind Forest, so not by some rookies. So here the year is 841, and as word of the king's death echoes throughout the kingdom, the crown passes to his arrogant yet untested son. So there are some rebels wanting to cut his head off. The land is on the brink of civil war. That sucks, but it can always suck even more. So an unholy plague not seen for 1,000 years has returned as well. What a coincidence, right? So the plague sweeps across the land, corrupting everything and everyone it touches. In all this turmoil, you embark on an adventure. Well, on a task to be fair, because you are sworn to defeat the plague at any cost. Well, it's always better to be a warrior than a civilian in a war, so kudos for you. You got this. Or not. Knowing you, probably not. No offense. Endless Space 2. Your story unfolds in a galaxy that was first colonized by godlike beings known as the Endless, who rose and fell eons ago. All that remains of them are mystical ruins, powerful artifacts, and a strange, near-magical substance known as dust. Nobody knows the origin of the dust, but I think it's the dried-out leftovers of potato salad once made by these godlike beings, so instead of eating you have to snort it. Anyway, here you'll explore distant star systems, discover the secrets of ancient races, build colonies on distant planets, manage trade routes, and develop advanced technologies of unthinkable power. Also encounter new life forms, which you will befriend, go to war against, or just cynically exploit. Or you'll be exploited. You never know what hides deep in the void. You know, the universe is endless, but still somehow smaller than your mama. New cycle. Here, after an apocalyptic series of solar flares, human society has been thrown into chaos. You will have to establish a settlement and develop it all the way from humble beginnings to industrial metropolis. In other words, you are responsible for bringing civilization back and not letting smart beavers take control of the earth. Don't worry, that is another game, no beavers here. If you manage to achieve success, that is. The game will challenge you with sandstorms, shortages, wildfires and other disasters, so be prepared and always ready to act quickly if you want your puny village to grow into a glorious ColdBeeristan. Although nature is not your only enemy here. Refugee crisis, unrest, disease outbreaks, this list of what can go wrong is very long. So there is a huge chance that you will fail miserably. Terrible fate awaits you, doom and gloom and other scary words. Shadow Tactics: Aiko's Choice. The game is a standalone expansion of the Shadow Tactics franchise, meaning that you are not required to have the main game to play it, and that Aiko's Choice is a full game with no strings attached. It is set in Japan around the early Edo period. Aiko's Choice is a stealth strategy where the main protagonist is a master of camouflage and distracts enemies disguised as a geisha. But it's not the only character you will be able to control. An agile ninja, mighty samurai, young thief, wise marksman, and perverted penis doctor joins your cause as well. Well, maybe not the latter, but you never know who is gonna jump to your aid unexpectedly. Postal. Brain Damaged. In this boomer shooter spin-off of the Postal franchise, things are about to get weird. Everything happens in your brain, and that brain is not a healthy one by any means. Overwhelmingly positive reviews left by thousands of players say to us that the idea and the execution here is flawless. In-game you will encounter fast and challenging enemies and diverse environments. Also you will enjoy crude humor, nicely presented gore and fantasy violence. Anyway, people on Steam are saying that this is a great game with fantastic art and super entertaining gameplay. Absolute gem and a must play.
And now thank you for watching, have a nice day, and I'll see you next time. Also subscribe. Yeah.
Subscribe to